amalgamation. This has been something that many Nigerians have been talking about, and many Yoruba people probably doesn't even know the full meaning of the 1914 amalgamation. Trying to do within the next 60 minutes, squeeze as much together, is to give us everything that we need to know when it comes to why we need to now de-amalgamate from Nigeria as quickly as possible. As we have said, Britain came into the country known as Yoruba land before 1914. And before 1914, there were some people that have been living peacefully, known as the Yoruba people, as we know through the book of Professor Adebanji Akintoye. I will be explaining in the next couple of minutes what we need to know from this particular book. And we hope and recommend that many of you would get access to this book so that you can have a full background of who we are prior before being known as Nigeria in 1914. So what we want to explain tonight is that the argument that we should remain one Nigeria, the argument by many Nigerians that we should remain one, and why do we want to break away from something that was forcefully joined together. The 1914 amalgamation is literally referred to the joining of the northern part, which is the Hausa. When we say the northern part, it used to be the north and the south, while it was so until 1914, before a name was added to it called Nigeria. So prior before the 1914 amalgamation, everybody was known as different names, whether you live in the north or the south or the southeast. But something took place in 1914, which is the reason why it is called the 1914 amalgamation today. The 1914 amalgamation refers to the joining of the North and the Southern Protectorate of Nigeria to form a single colony. What do we understand by single colony? The reason why we are having all the problems in Nigeria today is because something took place. A colony is defined as a visible mass of microorganisms or originated from a single mother. But when we look at Nigeria today, we are not single mother. We do not know each other. The Yoruba people are very fantastic, good people. The Igbo people are very good people in their own capacity and in their own region. The Hausa people are good people and have lived peacefully within their own region. We've traded together in different things, but something that took place in 1914 has now forcefully called every single one of those people as one mother, one father. We are not same mother. We are not same father. We are three different people that were created by the Creator for a purpose on this earth. And that purpose has now been defeated, especially from the Yorubas, the Hausas, and the Igbos. We've not been able to achieve our aims. We've not been able to achieve our desired goals. We've not been able to achieve our real purpose of this earth. And the reason for that is the creation of Nigeria by Britain in 1914. And it is time now that these needs to be amalgamated. Moving forward, there was now an official name, the colony and the protectorate of Nigeria, that became enforced on the 1st of January 1914. So when people talk about the 1914, what we should be asking is, why were people forced? They're not the same mother. They have no cordial relationship with each other. They were enemies, as many even know, prior before the 1914. The Yorubas probably do not have cordial relationship with the Igbos. The Igbos doesn't have the same cordial relationship with the Hausas, but they were able to manage each other as at the time before Britain decided. Why the Britain decided to join us together? Was it for a reason that the Yoruba requested that we want to be as one entity block within Nigeria? Was it something that the Igbo agreed that they wanted to be the same country with Yoruba people? Was it the same that the Hausa wanted to be in the same country with the Yorubas? All this is the reason why we are having a serious obstacle in Nigeria today. 60 minutes with Koikimedia, as I'll be diffusing some of those things that many of you would love to know. Let's quickly go back again. This unification, according to Britain, was a key step in the formation of a modern-day Nigeria and was primarily driven by the British colonial administrator for economic and administration conveniences. I want you to take note of those two words: economic and administrative conveniences. So when some of you are looking at Nigeria today, what you should be looking at Nigeria for is the economic and administrative purpose, is the reason why it was created by Britain. And that means that many Yoruba people have lost out when it comes to the right of their identity, their culture, their language. All these were removed because of one particular reason: the 1914 fraudulent amalgamation by Britain. Britain has been very smart. They've kept quiet for a very long time with the hope that the Yoruba people will continue to live in this union even after many, many years. Some have argued that the amalgamation expired. Regardless of whether the amalgamation expired or not is not the case anymore. The case means that Yoruba people have not been able to achieve their dreams as they remain in this contraction amalgamation. It has literally tied us down with the Igbos by telling us to speak in one language. So that means that our Yoruba language cannot be used in our state, in our schools, in our administrative purpose, and we have been told to start using English. The Igbo people have not been allowed to use their language, vice versa with the Hausas. Britain decided to call it Nigeria and then switch the language from Yoruba to English. And that means today, after many years, we've not been able to unite because Britain never created Nigeria for the purpose of our unity. Britain never created Nigeria for the purpose for us to have a cordial relationship as people that live together. Britain decided to forge ahead with us, without us, to create what we now call the economic and administrative conveniences for their own purpose. Let's give you some of the key aspects of the 1914 amalgamation: purpose, leadership, economic motivation, political and cultural context, and short-lived. The purpose of the 1914 amalgamation: the British colony administration sought to create what is now called a unified entity for administrative and financial purposes. My question to you that I continue to argue that we should remain one Nigeria is: have we been able to achieve a good financial efficiency as Yoruba people in the last 1914 till date, which is approximately about almost 110 years old of the creation of Nigeria? So when people say now that why do you want to exit Nigeria to become a full Yoruba country, Yoruba was not formed. Yoruba people were created by Eledumare before 1914. And we want to return back to how the Creator created us so that we can achieve our desire, keep our identity, and make sure that our language will remain the same, just as languages that are spoken in Denmark, in Germany, in France, in Saudi Arabia, because those are languages that represent the people. This is one of the reasons why we need to exit Nigeria. Leadership. There was a particular individual called Lord Frederick Lugard. Many Nigerians or many Yoruba people do not know who this individual and the character is. Frederick Lugard was born on January 22, 1858, whereas Yoruba land has been existing before Lugard was born. Yoruba land has been existing in far back as thousands of years, according to the book, The Yoruba People. So when those of you that argue that we should stick to Nigeria, the question is, even the man that created Nigeria on behalf of Britain was born in 1858. He actually died on April 11, 1945, at the age of 87 years old. Our father, that is making us to understand the reason why we need to return back to where we are today, is 90 years old. That means Baba Akintoye is still alive to witness something magnificent, and that means to tell us to de-amalgamate from Nigeria so that we can achieve exactly what we wanted to have achieved, that Britain never wanted us to be. What did Lugard do to Nigeria? Lugard's greatest contribution to the making of the modern Nigeria. So when you are hearing Nigeria and you still want to be Nigeria, a white man created Nigeria. A white man is not our grandfather. A white man is not our great-grandfather. A white man came into the being of Africa, went into Yoruba territory, worked with us, forced Nigeria on us after joining it together with the Igbos and the Hausas and the others on the 1st of January 1914. Nigeria was successfully amalgamated. It was not successfully because there was no serious consultation. When Britain wanted to leave the European Union, they were making serious consultation among the British people whether they want to remain in the European Union or they wanted to exit. So when some of you argue that our coming out for the rally in the next couple of days or weeks is not justifiable, we have already made enough campaign in the creation of awareness. And Baba Akintoye have every right to declare Yoruba nation at the appropriate time should he want to do so, so that we can return back to where we are. If our Oba doesn't accept it, they need to go back into history and ask why we were amalgamated. If our politician doesn't like it, they need to go back to history why we were amalgamated. Whoever amongst the Yoruba disagree with what Baba Akintoye is doing right now should return back and ask why we were amalgamated and the reason what I am doing this evening. Even after the amalgamation, the two parts remain as two separate countries without separate administrative. The question is, why did Lugard even made it to Africa? Frederick Lugard, like I said, was born in 1858. He died in 1945. He was a prominent British colony administrator that was sent from one part of the globe to the other. He was actually in India until he came into Africa, whose career significantly shaped the British Empire present in Africa. So when you look at the British Empire today in Africa, while there are many conflicts, many sabotage, many disaster, Frederick Lugard was literally forced into all this situation. He actually shaped the British Empire present in Africa that we know today. Do you know that he was not born actually in the United Kingdom? Yes, Frederick Lugard, that joined Nigeria together, a white man, was born in India to the missionary parent. Lugard faced personal challenges in his early life, including the loss of his mother. How can we accept these in 24th century to continue to be told to remain one Nigeria, knowing fully well that the man that created Nigeria himself was not even born in the United Kingdom? Yes, he was born to the British parents, but he himself never was born in United Kingdom. Let's go back to the reason why amalgamation is still existing. We go back, economic motivation. The Southern Protectorate, which is called the Yoruba part of Nigeria today, had a budget surplus. Many Yoruba people do not know that the reason why the Hausas and the rest love to remain in our territory is because even during the colony, we were making more money, and Britain was a little bit now worried that the North was losing money, and they decided for their own purpose, their own gain, we join them together and we will not have to lose from the north since the south is making surplus. Many of you have heard that we have given loan to the British before. We have funded even the federal government during the regional government. It's because the Yoruba people were making more money. Today, millions of our people are living in abject poverty. Millions of our people have decided that it is now time to return back and fix the broken Yoruba land that has not worked for us. It has only worked for Britain rather. It has worked for many other countries. But the real ancestral owners that are the Yorubas, the Omodua, that land has not worked for them. Let's give you an example. Osun State has many gold, yet the indigenous of Osun State are not able to access good quality education, welfare, security. Ondo State has a fantastic riverine, yet many Ondo citizens have not even had opportunity to use the water for the purpose that will enrich them to become millionaires in Nigeria. Let's look at Ogun State. Many resources, yet these resources is not available to millions of Yoruba people residing in Ogun State. Let's look at Ekiti State. Ekiti State is a fantastic place when it comes to the weather. When you think about it today, many Yoruba people cannot make it to the farm. Let's come back to Oyo State. We have seen the attacks, the late one from Ijagboyi, the town in somewhere in Oyo State, where the farmers was attacked, ambushed by Fulanis. Let's look at Lagos State. Lagos State has become congested because other people want to live in Lagos State while they've left their own state thinking that they can only make it out of Lagos State. This is why, as at the time of the colony, the Southern Protectorate had a budget surplus while the Northern Protectorate faced deficit. Do you know the meaning of deficit? Deficit is when somebody is losing money. Britain doesn't want to make the North as something that will work. So rather than fix the deficit, they wanted to use the extra money from the Southwest to fund the North. The amount by which something, actually a sum of money, is too small. What Britain was making out of the Northern Protectorate was not enough, and they wanted to make sure that they can use part of the Southern Protectorate to fix the problem. Political and cultural context. The amalgamation brought together divisive ethnic, religious, and political groups. Today, we have the Fulanis that are currently operating full into the country. When you look at it, our culture is different. Our languages are different. Yet, Britain went ahead and created Nigeria. When you look at the political terrain, you have been told that rotational must continue in Nigeria. That means, when power comes to the south, power then goes to the north. But why is power not going to the southeast? Because nobody trusts the Igbos. Do not allow them to have power. If Nigeria was a true country, power should be shared among all the regions, because that is the purpose that it was created in the first place, for political purpose. But that political purpose has not been justified, and that means those in the southeast have been shortchanged, short-lived. The amalgamation for only 7 months before the World War I began. Now let's dive into the Southern Nigeria Protectorate. The Southern Nigeria was a British protectorate, and when we look at protectorate in the context of international relation is a state that is under the protection by another state. The reason why we keep hearing that the Nigerian High Commission in London belongs to the Yoruba is because we were still having cordial relationship with the British before the independence of 1960. But Britain again knew that when the Yoruba had a full access to their region, they will be able to prosper under Baba Ulawo. So the first ever election in Nigeria in 1959 was rigged by Britain, and that is why the current, past, and previous election will continue to be rigged, because British knew very well that if you have a stable election, your life will be better. In the coastal area of the modern-day Nigeria, it was formed in 1900. When Britain talks about 1900, The Yoruba people have been existing, according to Professor Adebanji Akintoye, when we go back and look into his book. The Yoruba are one of the most populous peoples in Africa. They are famous as one of the Black Africa most outstanding civilization. Britain never brought civilization to Africa. Britain never brought civilization to the Yoruba people. We have been far ahead civilized before the Europeans or the Portuguese came into Africa. Yoruba kingdoms, as it is known, Britain wants to remain United Kingdom, yet wants to change the narrative forever by telling the Yoruba people that you don't have to be kingdoms. You can remain one Nigeria where your kings do not have access to speak on your behalf. But prior before that, we had kingdoms, settlements that occupy the southwestern region of the country that is now known as Nigeria. This was also extended to Republic of Benin Republic, Togo, through the transatlantic slave trade. The Yoruba religion has now been bastardized. We are told that the Isheshe, the tradition of the Yoruba people, is not something that we should, like to use. We can think about Christianity and Islam, even though these are not our religion. Our true religion is our traditional religion that Britain knew very well. When you look at when the Queen Elizabeth died, many of us saw the animal, the goat, that was used for ritual. We saw King Charles sitting on the stone, ritual. Ritual continue in United Kingdom, while ritual is told as diabolic in Yoruba land today. Many Yoruba people have now run away from becoming known to something that their forefathers were able to use successfully to look after themselves. We can do better. We can research on some of those things. We can use it in accordance to help us spiritually, healthcare. But today, Britain and all other pharmaceutical companies continue to use our tradition to do most of these drugs that is used and applied on us. But when we talk about our own tradition, it has become diabolic. Most of it comes through the movie that you've watched for a very long time. All these movies were used for one purpose: to destroy Yoruba tradition, destroy the Igbo tradition, destroy the Hausa tradition. And that is why many Yoruba people have run out of becoming known as Omo Oodua. Let's go further. Yoruba religion, language, and culture were transported to the New World, where they survived. We look at Yoruba people as far as Brazil, Cuba, Jamaica. It's because they were transferred during the slave trade. Yet, it continued to decline as Yoruba language is not spoken, it's not something that we speak in our school. If our governor wants to allow Yoruba to be enforced in our state today, those that are not Yoruba will challenge it in the court of law. Because why? Because we are one Nigeria. But when we become a full independent Yoruba country, just like any other country that you visit around the world, is either you speak in their language or you return back to your country. You will not tell a German to speak in English as long as you want to live in Germany. You will not tell an Italian to speak in English. If you do want to work and survive in Italy, you will have to speak the language. So those that are challenging Yoruba to be spoken in all our schools, we dare not do so when they arrive in Denmark, when they go to Saudi Arabia. You will have to learn those languages to live and work in those countries. Let's tell you how far Yoruba has dated. According to Baba Kitoye, Nigeria is not even 200 years old. Nigeria is not yet 150 years old. We will de-amalgamate from Nigeria peacefully. We will come out for our rally at the appropriate time. Baba Kitoye will have every right to declare Yoruba people to return back to where we are, dating back to 1000 CE. The Yoruba has been existing before the fraudulent amalgamation. Let's take back again quickly to the amalgamation discussion because we have 29 minutes to the conversation. My name is OLAYOMI KOIKI. It's just 60 minutes to talk about the 1914 fraudulent amalgamation. Let's go further. The Union of Niger Coastal Protectorate, with territories that was chartered by the Royal Niger Company. Many Nigerians do not know what Royal Niger Company means. Royal Niger Company was what the British was using to operate as a business empire, as a business entity, to take resources on behalf of Britain and sell it around the globe. So the Royal Niger Company was a mercantile company Yes, you heard it very well. Ilé-iṣẹ́, company. This company was used for the purpose of one thing: to defeat the indigenous people of their right to their resources, take out those resources. Most of the railway that British created when they were in the country was only from that purpose of where they were extracting straight to the port, to the shipping line, and removed to all over the globe. So the Royal Niger Company was a mercantile company chartered by British government in the 19th century. It was formed in 1879. Remember, I told you these were Yoruba land that Britain was using as their own business center. It was turned into the United African Company when people started asking questions. They started renaming it again to the National African Company in 1881. And the Royal Niger Company came into 1886. In 1929, the company became part of United. It became part of, in 1929, the company became part of United African Company. United African Company was a British company which principally traded in West Africa during the 20th century, which came under the control of Unilever. Most of you have heard about Unilever. During the 1930s, and continued to exist as a subsidiary of the Unilever until 1987. Britain was using Yoruba land to trade, while millions of Yoruba people were living in anguish and poverty. This is the time that we will stop it. This is the time that the Yoruba people will take back the full control of their land, with or without you. Whether you agree with it or not, we will go further under the instruction of Baba Akintoye at the appropriate time. The company existed for comparatively short time. Unilever, whatever name you want to call it, this was from 1879 to 1900, but was instrumental in the formation of the colonial Nigeria. The colonial Nigeria was ruled by British Empire from the mid-19th century until 1st of October 1960. That's about 45 years. Even after Britain decided to join Nigeria together, they held on to it, they strangulated everyone, and they still further gave us a fake result that led to the 1960 independence. We knew we won the election, but Britain rigged the census. So when many of you are saying that we are 200 million, and the northern part is saying that they have the highest number, Britain created that for the purpose of defeating the South, the Southeast, and the remaining part of Nigeria. Every now and then, the North says, without us, you cannot get a full result of an election. But it's a lie, because Britain cooked that from the beginning. In 1957, when they were negotiating to form the independence of Nigeria, Britain was speaking to many others. And as we know, and as we have given evidence enough on this platform, Britain were the manipulative people that used Igbo against Yoruba, Yoruba against Hausa, and we thought that was the end until Britain gave power to the Fulanis. And today, the Fulanis have now decided that under their late grandfather, Uthman Dan Fodio, they will dip the Quran, they will take our land, they will kill us, they will remove you from your land, you'll be forced into an Islamic that you don't want to be. They will destroy everything that the Yoruba people have known to be, from our culture, to our tradition, to our language. This is not the time to sleep. It is a serious situation. If we lose this opportunity, the next generation will cost each and every one of us. This is the time to remain firm, strong. There will be serious attack on individuals. There will be serious attacks on organizations. There will be serious attacks on you. You should not look into that. We must forge ahead and defeat the British Empire that still strangulate millions of our people that do not have access to watch me today, that do not have access to be able to know that the reason why they are suffering is not because of an election that they produce, of local government, the state, is because election will never work in Nigeria, because Britain never wanted any election to work as far back as 1960. Let's go quickly because of the time. In the next 3 minutes, I will do a quick translation in Yoruba to everything I've said as much as I can do. Frederick Lugard, who took office as the governor of both protectorates, he came into Africa in 1912, and by 2 years, he has already formed Nigeria. Was responsible for overseeing the unification, and he became the first governor of the newly united territory. Frederick Lugard established several central institutions to anchor evolving unified structure. A central secretariat was instituted at Lagos, which was the seat of government, and the Nigerian Council, later the Legislative Council, was founded to provide a forum of representatives drawn from the province. Certain services was integrated across the north and the southern provinces because of their national significance. Military, and today, the reason why the military architect is the north is because Britain knew that whoever has the gun would take charge of the country. So Britain gave the military architect to the Fulanis, and today the Fulani continue to take advantage of that, as you saw, as many military barracks are invaded. Going further, the treasury, when you look at Nigeria today, the north, known as the Hausa, is not the one in charge of your treasury. Even though Tinubu is the president today, your treasury has been under the Fulani for a very long time. They've literally used the central bank to support Britain's economy for a very long time. Even the current administration is still in line with such a kind of design. Many of you do not know your central bank takes order from Britain. Most of you do not know your country resources is controlled by Britain's stock market. Many of you do not even know that Britain decides the price of your gas to international market. We saw the same thing happening in Burkina Faso before they were kicked out. The French government was kicked out. We now realize that today, prices of uranium that should have been feeding many people in Burkina Faso was actually feeding the French economy. Britain is still using Nigeria as their own enterprise, and that means many of you live in poverty because that is the way Britain have designed it. And they'll probably give some of us visa, scholarship to come over there and live while we send the money that we earn back into a land that is prosperous. When you drop a seed in any part of Yoruba land, within 3 months, it starts germinating. The question is, why then does the diaspora in UK need to send money to their loved ones? It is designed like that by Britain. We have 20 minutes to the end of the broadcast. Audit post and telegraph, railways. Britain created railway not for the purpose of Nigeria. All the railways were created to extract our resources from the point of where the resources are straight to the port in Lagos State. Survey. Britain knows every part of Yoruba land more than you. They know where every resources are. Some of those resources have been shared among other countries like China, India, Pakistan, and that is why you, as a Nigerian, Yoruba, Chinese continue to operate in Yoruba land and disrespect you. Pakistan continue to operate in Yoruba land and disrespect you. Indians disrespect you. All this country will disrespect you because power does not belong to you. Your kings, your ballet have sold every single one of us, and that is why they've kept mute from the day we have been calling for the Yoruba people to return back to where we are. Your king cannot speak because every month, each of this country, each of these people that are operating on the land are giving them kickback. The process of unification was undermined by the persistence of different regional perspectives on governance between the north and the southern province by Nigerian nationalists in Lagos, while southern colonial administrators welcomed amalgamation as an opportunity for imperial expansion. Their counterpart in the North Province believed that it was injurious to the interests of the areas they administer. The North wanted to be part of Nigeria, yet Britain decided to say, how are you going to survive? You have nothing in the North. it is going to be in your interest to join the South that has water. We've talked about Ruga. We've talked about our land. All these are the reason why many of us today have suffered the consequence of one Nigeria. Administration, governor. From its foundation, the Southern Nigeria was administered by an High Commissioner. The first High Commissioner was Ralph Moore. Ralph Moore was the first British High Commissioner in the Southern Nigeria Protectorate and laid the foundation of the new administration. His health started failing. He retired on pension. His grandchildren are still enjoying the resources of Yoruba land till date. He returned back. He retired on the 1st of October 1903. 1903, there was nothing called Nigeria. It was thus known as the Southern Protectorate and the Northern Protectorate. I want you to put that at the back of your mind. 1903, it was just known as the Southern Protectorate and the Northern Protectorate. Egerton became the governor of Lagos State Colony, covering most of the Yoruba land in the southwest of what is now called Nigeria. In 1903, the colonial office wanted to amalgamate the Lagos colony with the Protectorate of the Southern Nigeria, and in August 1904 also appointed Egerton. Like I said, Walter Egerton was a British colonial administrator who was the governor of Lagos colony from 1904 to 1906, the governor of the Southern Nigeria from 1906 to 1912, and the governor of the British Guyana from 1912. So Britain was using all these white monster men to operate on our land to satisfy the interests and the economy of Britain. Yoruba land was used to build Britain that you are all living and myself. Yet Yoruba land continued to live in abject poverty. He was the High Commissioner for the Southern Nigerian Protectorate. He held office until 28th of February 1906. On that day, the two territories were formed, united, and Egerton was appointed the governor of the new colony and the Protectorate Southern Nigeria, holding the office until 2 years before the amalgamation. Again, while his predecessor in the Southern Nigeria, Sir Ralph Den Moore, resigned, a large part of the southeast, which is now called the southeast of Nigeria, was still outside the British colony. On taking office, Egerton began a policy of sending out annual pacification patrol, which generally obtained submission through the threat of force without being required to actually use the force. When Egerton became the governor of Lagos State, he enthusiastically endorsed the extension of Lagos-Ibadan Railway onto Osogbo, and project was approved in November 1904. Construction began in 1905 January, and the line reached Osogbo in April 1907. He favored railway over river transport, and he pushed to have the railway further extended to Kano by the way of Zaria. He also sponsored extensive road construction, building on the legislative foundation laid by his predecessor Moore that I told you fell into illness. Egerton shared Moore's view on the damage that was done to cross-river trade by the combination of the indigenous middlemen and trader based in Calabar. They established the trade at first, got the colonial office to pass rules inhibiting competition from trade. Egerton was a strong advocate of colonial development. He believed in deficit finance at certain period of the colony growth, which was reflected in the budget from 1906 to 1912. He had a constant struggle to obtain approval from this budget from the colonial office in the United Kingdom. As early as 1908, there was nothing called Nigeria. Egerton supported the idea of a properly organized agricultural department with an energetic and experienced head, and the Department of Agriculture came into being in 1910. Remember, there was no Nigeria as at 1910. Egerton endorsed the development of the rubber plantation, a concept familiar to him from his time in Malaya, and arranged for land to be leased for this purpose. People that owned those land were not enjoying the rubber plantation. They were exported to United Kingdom and all over the world to build their own economy. This was the foundation of a highly successful industry. He also thought there could be great potential in the tin field near Bauchi, and thought that if proven, the branch line to the field would be justified. Egerton came into conflict with the administration of the North Nigeria on a number of issues. Remember that the South were operating, but Egerton started pushing into the North before the 1914 amalgamation. There was a debate over whether Ilorin should be incorporated into Southern Nigeria since the people were Yoruba, or remain in the North Nigeria since the ruler was a Muslim, and for the time Ilorin had been subjected to Umayyad Caliphate. Now you see why they always say Kwara State is not Yoruba land. It is for the northern part of Nigeria. These are what Britain did, and we must stop it now. We have just a few more minutes before the end of this 60-minute amalgamation discussion. There was an argument about the administration of duties on the goods landed on the coastal and carried into the northern Nigeria. Today, you can see that many of these in the north do not want alcohol, yet the resources from alcohol in the southwest is still used to fund their own lifestyle. There was dispute over whether railway line from the north should terminate at Lagos or should alternate routes to Niger River and the coast. Egerton had reason on his side in objecting the proposal. Line terminated at Barrow on Niger, since navigation southward to the coast was restricted to the high water season and even then was uncertainty. Egerton administration imposed policy that tended towards segregation of Europeans and Africans. This includes excluding Africans from the West Africa Medical Service. This has been something that many of you might not know, saying that no Europeans should take orders from Africa. You can see why even when Africans went during the Pope burial, they were kept sidelined, which had the effect of ruling out of African doctors from serving with the army. Egerton himself did not always approve of this policy. They were not strictly upheld. To wrap it up, the legal relationship between the Lagos government and the Yoruba state of the Lagos colony was not clear. It was not until 1908 that Egerton persuaded the Obas. They've always persuaded the Obas. Your Oba will be continuing to be persuaded as they are hearing that the Yoruba people wants to go. Britain will be speaking to Ooni of Ife, the Alaafin, and many of them to warn them that they cannot allow Nigeria to break right now, and they should start thinking of what to do with Babakitoye and those that are clamoring for the dissolution of Nigeria. Your Oba has always been used by Britain, not today, even as far back as 1908. Let's go back to that. The legal relationship between the Lagos government and the Yoruba state was not clear until it was 1908 that Egerton, the governor of southern part of Yoruba land called Nigeria, because it was not Nigeria then, they were calling it southern part. So every time you hear Nigeria, Nigeria started from 1914. But prior to that, they were calling it the Southern Protectorate, the Northern Protectorate, and the Lagos Colony. But Egerton pleaded with our Obas to accept the establishment of the Supreme Court in the main town in 1912, 2 years before the 1914 fraudulent amalgamation. Egerton was replaced by Frederick Lugard, and this is how amalgamation came to be. Fáńfààní gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá tó gbọ́ gbogbo tí mò ń sọ látàárọ̀, èyí tá à ń ṣàlàyé fún àwọn ọ̀yọ́ wa ní ìwọ̀nba díẹ̀ ni pé bí wọ́n ṣe kó gbogbo àpapọ̀ láti 1914, bí àwọn ọba ilẹ̀ Yorùbá wọ́n ṣe jẹ́ ọ̀dàlẹ̀ tí wọ́n gba ìgbàkúgbà fáwọn òyìnbó níjọ́ náà lọ́hùn. Gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá tí ọ̀rọ̀ 1914 amalgamation òye, iṣẹ́ tí 1914 amalgamation wá ṣe ni pé òwò láàrin ìjọba Britain àti máa lo ilẹ̀ Yorùbá láti ṣe gbogbo, láti kó gbogbo nǹkan àmúnù tí ó jẹ́ resources wa, whether it is gold, whether it is timber, gbogbo tó lè kó nílẹ̀ Yorùbá ní ilẹ̀ Ìgbò. Kódà níjọ́ náà lọ́hùn, àwọn tó jẹ́ ìjọba tí wọ́n operate ní orílẹ̀ yẹn, kò sí kankan tó ń jẹ́ Nàìjíríà before 1914. South àti North ló ń pè, but lẹ́nìí tá bá ń sọ pé kí ni 1914 amalgamation? 1914 amalgamation was to put everybody together so that we cannot succeed as Yoruba people. Ìdí tá a ṣe sọ pé àsìkò tó ilé tó lọ. Ká tó parí ètò náà, ẹ jẹ́ ká gbọ́ èyí tí president tàná tó sọ nípa 1914 fraudulent amalgamation tí à ń pè ní Jonathan. Ẹ̀yin tẹ́ wà lórí Facebook ẹ ní lè gbọ́ nítorí pé ibi tá ti fẹ́ play jáde.
Thinking about how we've been having this conversation about the unity of Nigeria. And I reflect back at some of the prominent statements made by some of our founding leaders. And I feel that probably this will help us to have a conversation on the Nigerian unity. I just brought four, not to bore you. First, and I quote, not my statement. Nigeria is not a nation. It's a mere geographical expression. There are no Nigerians in the same sense as there are English, Welsh, or French. The word Nigerian is merely a distinctive appellation to distinguish those who live within the boundaries of Nigeria from those who do not. This is accredited to Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the former Prime Minister of the Western region. The second one, and I quote, "It is true that we politicians always delight in talking loosely about the unity of Nigeria. 60 years ago, there was no country called Nigeria. What is now Nigeria consisted of several large and small communities, all of which were different in their outlooks and beliefs. The advent of the British and that of Western education has not materially altered the situation, and the many and varied communities have not knit themselves into a composite unit." This accredited to Sir Amadu Bello, former Premier of Northern Region. The third, and I quote, "Since 1914, the British government has been trying to make Nigeria into one country. But the Nigerian people themselves are historically different in their backgrounds, in their religious beliefs and customs, and do not show themselves any sign of willingness to unite. The Nigerian unity is only a British intention country."
Arákùnrin tó ń sọ̀rọ̀ látẹ̀kan fáwọn tí wọ́n gbọ́n tó ń sọ òun náà ni ẹni tẹ́ mọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ ní mọ́wó tó ń pè ní Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Ó ní àwọn Britain àwọn gbọ̀ngàn ni wọ́n fẹ́ kí Nàìjíríà kó sì wà as one country, àmọ́ ṣé wọ́n fẹ́ kí Nàìjíríà kó sì wà as one country torí pé tí Nàìjíríà bá sì wà ní ẹyọ kan ò ní lè sọ èdè ẹ bó ṣe jẹ́ kó sọ, àṣẹ wọn máa gbà lọ́wọ́ ẹ, kódà ilẹ̀ yẹn wọn máa gbà lọ́wọ́ ẹ. Gbogbo àwọn politician ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ló mọ̀ nípa tí mò ń sọ yìí, gbogbo àwọn olóṣèlú ló mọ̀ nípa ẹ̀, àwọn ọba ilẹ̀ Yorùbá mọ̀ nípa ẹ̀, àmọ́ gbogbo wọn ló ń gba ìṣàkọ́lẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ Britain, gbogbo wọn ni wọ́n fún ní nǹkan kan, torí ẹ̀ ni gbogbo wọn ṣe dákẹ́ lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ ní gbogbo ibi tó wà láti máa sọ pé ká keep wọn Nàìjíríà. Kò sí kankan tó ń jẹ́ wọn Nàìjíríà nítorí pé àwa ni ìran ọmọ aládé, the Yoruba people tó ti ń exist for 1000 CE. Mo kí gbogbo alẹ́ kan sí odò agbèwà kò ní gbé ọ̀dàlẹ̀. Orúkọ tèmi ni Olayomi Koiki láti ilé iṣẹ́ wa náà látúntún mú ilé wa pé 1914 amalgamation will now be amalgamated by Yoruba people very soon. Bye for now.